So hi everyone and welcome to another live session from the series Engineering Qualification Validation. And this live session is part of the free workshop Engineering Qualification Validation in Australia. And tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the workshop that started today. And also I'm going to cover some of the biggest fears when starting the validation process. So I hope that you guys enjoy tonight's session. But first, for those that don't know me, my name is Gerson Ida. I'm the founder of www.engineersinaustralia.com, a website that I created to share content of value and useful information towards your validation journey, your engineering qualification validation journey here in Australia. And in my website, I also share information about other things related to engineering, like environmental management, workplace health and safety, the day-to-day of engineering here in Australia, and also about professional engineering recruitment. And if you haven't joined my Telegram group yet, you can use the link that I'm going to paste, copy and paste in Facebook and YouTube, and those ones in Instagram. The link in my bio, once you click on that link, there's a button. Well, one of the buttons is to join the Telegram group. So if you're not part of the Telegram group yet, feel free to join them. We've got more today. We've got more than 810 members in the group. And in that group is going to be vital in this workshop, because I'm going to place the links to the videos, posts, and tonight I'm going to create a PDF of this content, and I will be sharing the PDF in the Telegram group. It's going to be a little bit of a game. I'm going to explain a little bit later on how I'm going to share the PDF in Telegram. So I'm just going to copy and paste the link in YouTube and Facebook, and then those ones in Instagram, you can go to my bio and the link is there. And this morning, obviously here in Australia, was probably in the evening in Brazil and in other countries, we had the opening live webinar of the workshop, where I explained how the workshop is going to work, and we discussed one of the biggest challenges that most engineers they face when they are in their validation journey, which is procrastination. And if you missed the opening webinar, I have uploaded the replay in the workshop webpage, and the link I'm going to put in the comments. And if you're watching in Instagram, I'm going to put the link in my bio as well. As one of the buttons of the bio will be the link to the workshop page. I'll put a little bit later on when I finish this live session. And if you haven't registered to the workshop yet, you still can register if you are on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. If you haven't registered and haven't received the emails with the reminders of the workshop events, you can register now, and then you will be receiving tomorrow morning the first video where I'm going to explain what I'm going to talk in tomorrow's video. And before I start with the content, I would like to know, what is your blockage? What is your biggest fear when it comes to get started with the validation process? So if you can put in the comments, please. After 5 or 10 minutes, I'll check the comments and I will see what's your biggest challenge or biggest fear in the validation process. And as I said before, I'm going to create a PDF of this live session. But there's a catch. I will just publish the PDF in my Telegram group. If I get some interaction in a post that I'll be doing during the live session today in Instagram. So what I'm doing in the last few live sessions, I'm taking a picture of the future PDF. Usually there's a question there. And then what I ask you guys to do is to go to Instagram during or after the live session, like the photo or the post, and then in the comments, you answer the question. So it gives a little bit of interaction, engagement in Instagram. It helps my Instagram the content to go to more people. This is totally free content, so I think it's not much for me to ask you just to kind of go to the post and like it and make a comment. So until 10 p.m. I will check if there were any comments or engagements, likes, and we'll then place the PDF in the Telegram group. And also the PDF is protected by a password. So during the live session, I'm going to give the password. So if you don't have the password, you got to watch the live session, and then you'll be able to open the PDF. So let's get down to the business now, and I'm really happy to be here to share my experience in the validation process, having done myself and having helped many other engineers in the process. And a reminder that tomorrow morning around 9 a.m. Brisbane time, I will be sending by email from tomorrow video number 1. And video number 1, it will have about 25 minutes. It will have about 25 minutes, and I'm going to cover the opportunity for life transformation, the 5 pathways to validate engineering qualification in Australia, and the CDR steps, the competency demonstration report steps. And then video number 2, which I'm going to release on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about the 7 top questions about the validation process, the 7 top mistakes during the validation process that most engineers they do. And also I'm going to talk about the 6 practical examples of CPD, continuing professional development. And then on Friday, I'm going to release video number 3, which I'm going to talk about the format and the structure of the career episodes and how to better choose the experiences, the risks of plagiarism, what is the summary statement, and the Engineers Australia revision process in case your application is not approved. So just recapping a little bit of the workshop calendar. So this morning we had the opening workshop webinar, and obviously now we're having the YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook live session. And tomorrow I'm going to release the first video. Wednesday I'm going to release the second video, and then Thursday on the 4th of February at 8:30 p.m. Brisbane time, I'm going to have an Instagram live session just on Instagram. In my profile at Gerson Ida, where I'm going to answering some questions that I received during the workshop, and also I'm going to choose somebody from the audience, and I will give a 15-minute free consulting services for somebody that wants to share the screen with me, and on the spot the person can throw me a question, a scenario, and we'll spend 15 minutes discussing about that. Even if you are not the one chosen, I encourage you to keep watching then the Instagram live session, because that person's question could be also your question. And then on the Sunday, the 7th of February at 10 a.m. Brisbane time, I'm going to have the closing webinar of the workshop, where I'm going to be reviewing the whole process. I'm going to be answering questions, and I'm going to talk about what you need to do to give a step forward towards your validation process. And also, many people already asked me if I'm going to open a new group of my online mentoring program. And depending on the interest, I may or may not open. If I do, I will then announce on Sunday, and then I'll explain how the mentoring is going to work. But so far, we're going to talk about the content. As you can see, it will be a full week of immersion. I spent a lot of time in the last few weeks preparing for this workshop. reviewing the videos, because the videos been recorded, so I reviewed them. I put together a lot of content for the webinars, for the live sessions, and I hope that you guys enjoy and it can help you towards your validation process. So, in my opinion, these 8 days, because Sunday to Sunday is actually 8 days, those days can be the turning point that you need in 2021 to make this year a different year in your life, to have your engineering qualification validated in Australia. So now I'm going to talk about some of the biggest fears when starting the validation process. So I'm just going to share with you what is going to be the PDF. So unfortunately, those one on Instagram won't be able to see that, but in Facebook and YouTube, I believe you can. So I'm just going to show you guys quickly. So that's going to be pretty much the PDF with the content that I just explained. And it's going to be the calendar there. And these are the topics that I'm going to talk tonight. The biggest fears there are many fears that usually engineers they have, but the ones that I picked for tonight, they are not very good in English, not having enough work experience, not having access to academic work, experience to use in the career episodes, not being a good report writer, understanding the competencies, plagiarism, and how to start the validation process. So those are going to be the items, and under each of these, obviously, I will put the content that I'm going to talk about. So it's going to be a fairly good PDF in the end. So I'll go back to my camera now, and I'm going to talk about the first one. So the first one, the first biggest fear that I think usually people have is when you think that you're not very good in English. And this is a very common fear. I'm just going to see if I can turn on the comments to see if I've got any comment there in Facebook. Okay. So the first fear is not being very good in English. And this is a very common fear that many engineers have, as English usually is not their mother language in majority of cases. It is certainly not my mother language, and it was one of the fears that I had. But the big question is how to overcome this fear, how to fight against this fear, how to win this fear. So you need to understand that the validation process is not something that you're going to start today and then you're going to kind of finish in a week or so. Well, some people, I have actually one student of my mentoring that she was pressed about the visa and she finished in 2.5 weeks. So, but that's probably an exception. But you need to understand the validation process is going to take some time, and it will require you a proficient English level. It's not going to require you a native or fluent level. And if you're planning well your validation process, and obviously engineers, we are very good in planning. You're probably going to start doing your validation process some 6 months before you actually need to apply your validation process. Considering that once you apply, if you don't really apply for fast track, it's going to take probably 3 to 4 months. If you apply fast track, it's probably going to take between a month or 2. So if you apply, if you're thinking that in 6 months time you will have to apply and get your outcome, pretty much you've got 6 months to improve your English, because you can prepare all your validation documentation and just then do your English test towards the end. And during this time, in the 6 months that you are preparing your validation documentation and reports, if you are really committed to the process, you will be reading technical articles, you will be reading technical specifications, you will be researching technical papers to learn the technical terminologies in English of your profession. You're going to be writing the draft reports for your CDR, your CPD, your career episodes, and your summary statement. You will probably going to be attending events in English. Even my weekly live sessions can help. Obviously, my English is not really good, but it's better than nothing. And during this time, naturally, you will be improving and gaining, which is more important, confidence in your English level. And once you finish your documentation preparation and report writing, time has passed and you may be better prepared to sit the English test. That's actually happened with many of my students. They started my mentoring program and their English, they were not 100% to get at least 6 in IELTS or equivalent scores in PTE and TOEFL. And then after they studied a lot and researched and read a lot of technical articles and drafted their career episodes. So they actually, if you think in the English test, they practice reading, they practice writing, listening, and speaking, because during the mentoring program, obviously they were talking with me as well. So in the end, once they finish everything, they pretty much sit the English test and they manage to get approved. So a good measure is if you can understand my English reasonably well, I'd say that you are at the stage that you can start your validation process and improve with the time. I say this because my English is not very good, and if you understand me, it means that you're really, really good. So don't be afraid of your English level. If you don't really practice, you're not going to improve. The second biggest fear that I listed is when you don't really have enough work experience. A lot of people, they have the fear that just because they didn't really have work experience, they are afraid to start their validation process. So that's another common fear, especially amongst recently graduated engineers or those engineers that are a little bit away from engineering work for quite some time. But the good news is that to validate your engineering qualification, you don't need even to have work experience. Engineers Australia does not require work experience, and subsequently, obviously, does not require Australian experience, academic or work. You can just use your engineering experiences as long as they match the occupation definition of the ANZ SCO, which is the Australian and New Zealand standard classification of occupations. I'm going to just see how we can do the PDF there. So I'm just going to make sure that the PDF is getting good, that I don't miss anything there, and then I'm going to show you guys how the PDF is coming. So I said already 2 fears. So the PDF is coming like this. Not very good in English, so yeah, the thing that I spoke with you guys, and then not having enough work experience. So fear number 3, or next fear, is not having access to academic work. So this is another fear that a lot of, especially those engineers that are going to use academic experience as part of your career episodes, and they may not have access to the academic work. So that could happen. So this is somehow connected to the above, when you don't really have work experience. So you have to use academic experience. So many engineers do not have work experience, so they will have to go back to university studies, the work that they did during university studies, and use those studies assignments as part of their career episodes. But some of them, maybe some of you, also do not have access anymore to your academic work. You don't really have the reports, you don't really have access to the assignments. So, and when you use your academic engineering experiences to write your career episodes, it is very common that Engineers Australia may ask you to send a copy of the academic report to prove that you actually did that work and you didn't make it up. So, and usually it doesn't really need to be translated. Perhaps you just translate the executive summary, but normally the executive summary is already in English. So, and then what do you do if you don't really have access to the report, or if you don't really have access to the assignments? So in case you don't have access to those, you can try to get a letter from the university, either from your professor or course coordinator, and ask them to write that you have studied that subject and the career episode that you wrote reflects the report or assignment that you did at the time of studies. The only thing is that you may need to send your draft career episode to the professor, so he or she then can read and provide you that letter. I have few students that they didn't have access because they graduated so many years ago and they didn't have access to the reports. I advised them to explain that to the professor, and the university provided them like a reference letter, and it worked, and they ended up getting approved as well. I'm just going to double check if there is any questions there. No question in Facebook. I'm going to see if is there any question in YouTube. No, there's no question there. Yeah, that's okay. So we'll keep going. The other biggest fear is experience to use in the career episode. This fear is prevalent, and it's a very legit fear, because having the right engineering experience, academic or work, is critical to the process. I'd say that it's a matter of success or failure. Many engineers already asked me to help them by providing consultancy work when their report were rejected by Engineers Australia. And Engineers Australia, usually they state, please rewrite your career episode or career episodes using an experience that reflects the competencies of a civil engineer or mechanical engineer, whatever engineer you applied for, according to the competencies in the MSA booklet, Migration Skills Assessment booklet, and ANZ SEO occupation definition. And they also say, also adjust your summary statement to reflect the new career episodes. So obviously when you get this email from this feedback from Engineers Australia, it's not a very nice one, and it's really not a very good feedback. Those people that ask me to provide consultancy services in this area, as you probably know, I do not provide one-on-one consultancy service, so I couldn't really help them. And I always say that it's better for you to do a lot of planning. You gotta think very well. You gotta be very confident about what you're going to write about. And once you are very confident, once you planned really well, then the chances for you to get knocked back is much lower. Those feedbacks is when usually people, they didn't really plan very well, or they didn't really have access to better experiences and they tried anyway. So choosing the right experiences for the career episode is not an easy task and a good start, but what you can do to get this fear overcome, a good start to get it right is to read carefully the ANZ SEO occupation definition of the category and occupation that you'll be applying for. And obviously, if you got to read very carefully also the migration skills assessment booklet, where there is a description of each of the 16 competencies. I'm going to copy and paste in Facebook and YouTube the website of the Australian Bureau of Statistics, where you can find the ANZ SEO definition for engineers. So once you open that website, you can then search for the type of engineer that you are trying to apply for, and then you can read the ANZ SEO occupation definition. The other biggest fear is not being a good report writer. So that's also another very common fear, because engineers in general, we are not very good report writers. Obviously, there are some exceptions. I know some engineers that they write really well, but majority of those engineers that I know, they are very analytical, and report writing is a challenge. And this is certainly a big fear to many engineers. And I want to ask you, are you a confident writer? If you are, can you please put yes in the comments? And if you're not, can you please put no in the comments? So are you a confident writer? So let's see if you guys are part of the group, the majority of engineers that I know, or which are not very good writers, or if you are part of the group of engineers, the minority group that I know that are very good writers. I consider myself today being a better writer. I don't consider myself as a very good writer, just because I did a lot of training in the last probably 20 years in my career. I did a lot of training, and obviously I did a lot of report, and I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people, which improved my writing. Thanks, Cassidy, in Facebook. You're saying that yes, you're a confident writer. Very good. So we spoke the other day, so I can put you in my minority group of engineers that are very good writers. So well done. So I hope, and I'm pretty sure that you won't have issues to complete your reports. And why is it really a big fear? Well, if you think that you need to write 3 career episodes, and according to the booklet, each career episode will have between a minimum of 1,000 words and a maximum of 2,500 words. In my case, I wrote, when I did my CDR, I wrote pretty much close to the maximum, 2,500 words for each career episode. And even for my mentoring students, I strongly advise them to write close to 2,500 words as well. And why is that? Remember that you have 16 competencies that you need to address. And if you write, let's say, 1,000 words or 1,200 words, I'd say that your report is going to be a little bit superficial in terms of proving the evidences. And if you have a superficial report, your chances of the assessor from Engineers Australia not to approve some of the competencies that you're demonstrating, you're increasing the chances because obviously you have lower numbers of competencies. So that's why I encourage my students, and I encourage pretty much everyone, to write close to the 2,500 words. And you must be thinking, oh, it's very difficult. Yeah, I've got a lot of students that in the beginning, they couldn't really write 1,000 words. But then once I teach them how to write properly and how to choose experiences and everything, some of them even, they wrote 3,200 words, and I had to ask them to cut 700 words because it was too much. So 2,500 words times 3 career episodes, 7,500 words. That was an easy math. Also, there's a CPD, or continuing professional development, that you're probably going to have another maybe 500 or 700 words. And also the summary statement. Summary statement, some people think that it's an easy document, but it's a very complex document. And my summary statement had about 2,000 words. So if you add up 2,000 words from the summary statement, another 1,000 words for the CPD, and another 7,500 words for the career episodes, we're talking about a report of nearly 10,000 words. So altogether. So there's a lot of words. And Carol in Facebook is saying that you're very good at writing reports. Yeah, that's good. So I've got now 2 more engineers that I can say that they're very good in writing reports. You guys, the exception. But to write the reports of the CDR is not just about number of words. So you got to pay attention, because obviously writing 10,000 words is a lot of words, but the content is very important. You can write 10,000 words and you can waffle a lot. Waffle is just kind of for those Brazilians is encher linguiça. You can waffle and don't really be very objective, and you may not cover the competencies that you need. So your episodes and summary statement, if you do this, if the content is not really strong, you have big chances for the career episodes and summary statement to be rejected by Engineers Australia. So what can you do then to really write, to have more, how can I say, to be easier for you to write a strong and solid report? And that's what I ask you guys to write. It's not just to kind of, all right, today I wake up and then I'm going to write everything. Writing the reports, it needs planning. Writing the reports, it needs thinking. So, and it needs time. If you try to write in just one day, pretty much is going to be not with a very good quality, not to say that's going to be probably a crap or rubbish. So what can you do then? So planning and advanced thinking are the keys to success. You gotta read very carefully the Migration Skills Assessment booklet, and do not leave, please, things to the last minute when you don't really have time to think, you don't have time to plan, to organize. And if you do all of those, if you think, if you plan, if you organize, if you read the booklet, if you read the ANZ SEO classification, definition of occupations, it will help immensely the data and information gathering. And it will be a matter of organizing the data and information to write your reports. Cassidy and Carol, that they are very good writers, they know that once you have a very good amount of data and information, organizing that information then is going to be much easier. You can get logic, you can give a very good introduction, a very good body of your report, and a very good summary. So really, really important. Okay, so I'm just going to see just a PDF, so I don't really miss anything. So, and then I'm going to show you guys how the PDF is taking shape. So it's kind of coming good, actually. Okay, I'm going to show you guys really soon. I'm just making sure that I get this right. So yeah, just a PDF. It's got a lot of words, I can tell you. So again, not very good in English, not having enough work experience, not having access to academic work, experience to use in the career episodes. That's the site of the ANZ SEO from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and not being a good report writer. So we're going to talk still about understanding the competencies, which is another fear, the fear of plagiarism, and how to start the validation process or preparing and writing your reports. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to reveal the first half of the password. As I said before, this PDF is going to be protected by a password, and the first half of the password, pay attention guys, is competency. So I'm going to put in the comments, but people that didn't watch the live won't know what it is. So the first half of the password is competency. I'm going to put in competency Facebook, and I'm going to put in Instagram as well. Competency. All in small caps. And now I'm actually going to take a picture and do that Instagram post, and I hope that you guys can, or during the workshop or during the live session or after, if you guys can like the post and make a comment. And the comment needs to be answering that question there. So I'm gonna take a square picture for Instagram. So I'm going to post now on Instagram. Yeah, those ones on Instagram can see that I'm going to post now. So next, and the caption is going to be a question. What is your biggest fear when starting the validation process? So simple question. Yeah, sharing. So should be there. Yes, I think, yeah, it went there. So those on Instagram, it's already there. Those on Facebook and YouTube, the post is there. So I hope that you guys can engage with me and like the post and answer the question in the comments. And if I have some engagement, I'm going to create this PDF and I'm going to post in the Telegram group. The Telegram group is the Engineering Qualification Validation group. If you're not really part of the group yet, the link is in the comments in Facebook and YouTube. And if you're watching on Instagram, it is in the link in my bio there. So let's keep going. The other biggest fear that I listed here that I'm going to talk tonight is understanding of competencies. And this fear is somehow a little bit difficult to overcome. And why is that? First, there is the challenge of understanding what is a competency, how to address those competencies, and what experiences will match that competency. And obviously, there is the language barrier as well. So I myself, I had this fear, and I struggled for many, many months. And at that time, there was no help. There was no Facebook groups. There were no videos in YouTube. Yeah, because I'm talking about back in 2005, where Orkut was the social media of the time. So did you remember Orkut? So in my case, I just managed to understand well about competencies when I completed my certificate 4 in training and assessment. Some of you may or may not know, but my first professional job here in Australia was as a technical consultant, and I was providing consultancy and training in project management and business management. And as part of the job, I had to deliver training. So my boss asked me to complete that certificate 4 qualification to be able to make assessment and to also deliver training. The company was a registered training organization, RTO, and because I was doing assessments, I had to have that qualification. And once I completed that qualification and once I started doing assessments with my students, that was when I really understood what a competency is and how to address those competencies. As I was marking my students and I was assessing if their work were meeting the required competency. And in those years that I worked there, I have assessed and marked hundreds and hundreds of assignments. And in all of those years, in the past, 12 years that I'm working as an engineer, I have reviewed dozens and dozens of career episodes as part of my volunteer work with Engineers Australia. I don't know if you know, but as part of my volunteer work, I put my hand up to be part of interview panels with industry when other engineers, they are aspiring to become a chartered professional engineer here in Australia. Now the process has changed a little bit, but just in the recent past, candidates had to do a professional interview with engineers from the industry, and I participated in many, many interviews. So in this case, in terms of understanding the competency, there's no easy way. I'll be open and honest with you guys. For you to really try to understand how to address competencies, unfortunately, there's no easy way. You will need to study the booklet. You will need to read technical articles, technical specifications. Those are the best way to improve your knowledge and increase your chances to get it right. So I have some videos in my YouTube channel where I give some examples of experiences that can be used in some competencies. But there are 16 competencies, and there are so many examples in each competency. It's very extensive content, and it requires a lot of time. So just an example, and I can see that even in Instagram, there are some of my students participating here. Yeah, thanks for those ones there. And they watch the classes, and they know that just in the covering the 16 competencies, the lessons that I have, they have more than 4 hours of duration, where I give a lot of examples and how to address those competencies. So it's going to be impossible to do here. The other biggest fear that I can see is, as I mentioned, is plagiarism. A lot of engineers, they have fear of being caught by plagiarism. Myself, I'm not sure why many people, they have fear of plagiarism, because if you do the work by yourself, if you don't ask somebody else to write on your behalf, if you don't copy somebody else's report, or if you do not engage a CDR writer or copy and paste from the internet, then there is no reason to fear being caught by plagiarism. But unfortunately, it's not just few, but many engineers, for a reason or another, they ended up doing the wrong thing. And Engineers Australia, they caught them, and now, and some of them, they've been banned for up to 3 years. And it's not just that. Engineers Australia also sends their details to the Home Affairs Department or Immigration Department for future investigation. And why do they do that? Because the Migration Skills Assessment application outcome can be used for migration purposes. And if you do plagiarism, it breaches the Engineers Australia Code of Ethics. Plagiarism is certainly an unethical behavior and breaches the Code of Ethics. So it could be interpreted as not having a good character. And the Home Affairs Department consider character assessment as part of their visa application assessment. So ask to your registered migration agent what is character assessment when you are applying for a visa. So if you get caught by plagiarism and if you are banned, it may also impact a future visa application. So very serious, guys. So I don't really encourage and I don't really support you guys doing that. And this is another reason why I started my project, Engineers in Australia, to share information with you guys, so you guys don't get tempted to engage CDR writers. You guys don't get tempted to copy someone else's CDR, and then you take the risk to be banned. Even if you ask somebody else's CDR just to have a look, and I see a lot of people saying, oh yeah, even in people in Facebook, they offer their CDR to other people. It's not good. I know that they just trying to help, but once you read somebody else's CDR, you're probably going to be using similar words. You guys probably going to perhaps copy something. And Engineers Australia, they use a very advanced plagiarism detection software, and it's not good. So the risk is too much. And as I said this morning, the process is not complex. The process is simple, just 6 steps. But I also said this morning that although it is simple, it's not easy. It will require effort, it will require time, dedication, commitment, and determination. So if you are not ready, if you have other priorities, wait until you can prioritize the validation. It will save a lot of time, a lot of stress and frustration. But if you are ready, please be sure that you can do it by yourself And if I did it, anyone can do it as well. And the last fear that I put here for tonight is how to start this process. I often hear that people have the fear of getting stuck, not knowing how to start. And this morning during the live webinar, we discussed about procrastination. And procrastination can be a fear as well. As if you are a procrastinator, as I am, you have the natural fear to start the process because you know that you will procrastinate and you won't get it done. So hopefully, if you apply some of the strategies that I shared with you this morning, you will be able to overcome procrastination. But the fear of how to start is slightly different in my view, because you can be determined to start your process. You read already the booklet, but you still have the fear to start. So the good news is that there are plenty of information available. You just need to be careful with where the information comes from. And if you're going to look for help, ask yourself, is the source reliable? How much experience they have in the process to advise people? Can they teach you how to do it? Because obviously, you don't want them to do it for yourself, because this characterizes plagiarism, and obviously you don't want to be caught. And one thing that I see in some of the Facebook groups, it's very common that in Facebook and Instagram, many engineers, they offer help, even consultancy to help others, simply because they manage to do themselves and they believe that they can help anyone. It's good on them in offering to help a fellow engineer. I do the same. I offer my help, and I believe that I am helping a lot of people. And I really hope that they can really help as I do. I just think that if somebody that just had their own case done may not be prepared to take up this big responsibility. I thought a lot before I opened my mentoring group, for example, because at the moment that I offer a service, obviously I am committed, and it's a big responsibility. At the end of the day, if you're engaging somebody, a service, or even accepting free advice, this can impact the rest of your life. A wrong advice can get your application rejected or even be banned by plagiarism. So you gotta be careful. And I was asked more than 40 times, as I said before, if I could provide consultancy. And even some people, they were really desperate. They were willing to pay even $5,000, $7,000 to have my help. And I declined every single request. One, because I don't do one-on-one consultancy. I don't have the necessary time to dedicate to a one-on-one consultancy. It requires something about 20 to 30 hours, and it can cost up to $9,000 even. So, and also because I think it's a lot of money for something that you can do by yourself. But consultants and agents, obviously, they do that for living, and it's their job. So at the end of the day, use the strategy we discussed this morning. If you are struggling or if you have the fear to start, break down big tasks in achievable mini tasks and kill a lion per week. And after a few weeks, you will see that you have already advanced in your validation process, and this feeling of accomplishment will motivate you further, and it will keep you going until you finish. And I will be here. I'll sharing my knowledge. I'll be having my weekly live sessions here on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can watch my more than 180 videos that I have in my YouTube channel, and you can progress with your validation process. And without the risk of being caught by plagiarism, because you're actually doing everything yourself. in my mentoring program, I don't write to people. I teach them how to do it, because the competencies, they are principles. The competencies are generic to all engineering. They're the same. So I teach them how they can write very strongly. And every student, they write everything by themselves. And because they wrote themselves, it doesn't really characterize for plagiarism. So I'm going to give you the second half of the PDF. So the second half is going to be professional. So I'm going to put in the comments professional, and put in Instagram professional. So, and I'm going to put in YouTube professional. So that's the second half of the password. So the password is going to be competency professional. So the two halves together, all in small caps. So, but you need to go to the Instagram, my last Instagram post, and like the post and answer those questions. If I don't have engagement in that post, I will not create the PDF, and I'm not going to post in Telegram. What I'll do always, I have my VIP group for my students. For my students, I will give the PDF, obviously without the password, because they're my students. So let's see how the PDF is taking shape. We'll be finalizing this PDF. So, and then I can show you guys how it is taking shape. It's going to be really probably about 10 pages. So it's going to be a fairly good PDF, and with almost 2,500 words. So pretty much the length of a career episode. So I can probably classify myself as being a better writer, report writer. So let me show you guys how the PDF is taking shape. So that's how the PDF is taking shape. Don't forget to answer this question in the Instagram post in there. Like the post and make some comments so I can release the PDF in the Telegram group. And then obviously there's a calendar there. So the biggest fear one, not very good in English. Another one, not having enough work experience, not having access to academic work, experience to use in the career episode, not being a good report writer, understanding of competencies, plagiarism, how to start the validation process. So it's actually 10 pages, 2,645 words. Yeah, that's quite a lot. All right. So guys, don't forget to check your email. Don't forget to check your email inbox tomorrow morning between 9 and 9:30 a.m. Brisbane time, because I'm sending the first workshop video. And if until 10 a.m. you don't really get the email, please check your junk mail box. And it's a good idea to save my name and my email address in your contacts and mark as favorites. So the other emails, they don't really go to the junk mail box. Alternatively, you can access video number 1 in my webpage, engineersinaustralia.com, and click on the menu. I'll show you guys here. I prepared earlier. So that's my website there, engineersinaustralia.com. And then in the menu, there's this Qual Validation. That's the workshop web page. And in here, you will see those on Instagram. I'll turn the camera so you guys can see. So here you can watch the replay of the webinar that we had this morning. And then now the videos are still locked, but tomorrow morning this one, video number 1, is going to be unlocked, and then you can just click in there and then it will take you to the video number 1. And remembering that the videos are going to be in Portuguese and English as well. I think, yeah. What else? So tomorrow's video, as I mentioned, it's going to be around 25 minutes, and I'll be talking about the opportunity for life transformation. I'm going to explain the 5 different pathways to validate engineering qualification in Australia if you are an overseas engineer. And also I'm going to talk about the CDR steps, the competency demonstration report steps. And if you have any suggestion, comments, or even if you just want to give the video a thumbs up, please put in the comments in the workshop page. I will just check if there is any question there in Facebook or YouTube or Instagram before I finish. Yeah, sorry, Sally, in YouTube, there's the echo there. It was happening in the Instagram, and I don't know what happened. I did a lot of testing, but somehow the only thing that I know for sure is that when I'm doing a live session, something is not going to go right. So we'll see what I can do to improve in the next live session so it doesn't really have an echo. There's no question here in Facebook, and no other question in Instagram. I'm just going to double check. No. All right. So I would like to thank you guys very much, and I hope to see you tomorrow in video number 1 of the workshop. I'll see you there, and bye-bye.